President Trump says Iran can be taken out in less than a day.
Late Thursday night, an American F-15 fighter jet went down deep inside enemy territory in Iran while participating in Operation Epic Fury, where we're doing unbelievably well, well at a level that nobody's ever seen before. The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
All right, Congressman Mike Lawler is a Republican from New York and joins me now. Congressman, you're on the Foreign Affairs Committee. If we take out Iran's bridges and power facilities, that doesn't necessarily open the Strait of Hormuz, does it?
Well, the challenge here, Stuart, is that you're dealing with a regime that has not negotiated in good faith for 47 years. And over the last 5 weeks, we have seen them act out belligerently and work to block the Strait of Hormuz and block trade coming through. What the president is trying to do is force a negotiation with the remnants of this regime to end the blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, to have them give up their 60% enriched uranium. And we have taken decisive action over the last 5 weeks to eliminate much of the threat posed by their ballistic missiles program, their naval fleet, and their drone capacity. And so there is more work to do, and the administration, as you saw this morning, is taking action on Karg Island. But I think the president is not bluffing here when it comes to taking action against Iran's energy sector and its road and bridges if this regime will not come to a deal to end this 47-year reign of terror that we have seen.
Is the most important job for our military in the Mideast at the moment opening the Strait of Hormuz? Is that the single priority, the biggest priority?
Well, from a global economic standpoint, it matters. Yeah. A lot of our allies get oil through the Strait of Hormuz, as well as other goods. We are less reliant on it than some of our allies, which is why the president has taken a very aggressive posture with NATO, among others, to say, look, you are relying on this. If you look at Iran's oil trade, their illicit oil trade, for instance, 90% of their oil is purchased by China. So China is heavily reliant on the Strait of Hormuz. It's certainly in their interest for the strait to be open for business again. But that is one component. The enriched uranium is another, as well as, obviously, who is going to be in charge of this country moving forward. So there are still some issues to be resolved. That is why negotiations are underway. But I think as the president showed last summer with the strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, as he showed in January in Venezuela with the removal of Maduro, and as he showed 5 weeks ago with the beginning of this incursion, he is not bluffing. And I think people underestimate at their own peril here.
Okay. I'm going to change the subject for a moment. The new DHS Secretary, Markwayne Mullin, he outlined the agency's deportation plan under his leadership. Here's the soundbite.
We're still going after the most egregious felons and criminals out there. That doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily be hunting you every single day, but as we're doing immigration enforcement, we also have situations where local law enforcement picks up individuals that aren't in this country legally. When they do, we're also deporting those. If you're in this country illegal, you have a duty to self-deport, and we have a mechanism for that. We will actually give you money and pay for your flights for you to self-deport.
Okay, Congressman, you've been critical about Trump's immigration crackdown under Kristi Noem. This seems to be a much softer tone. Is that what you want?
Well, I think the focus, as it should be, is on the worst of the worst and the criminal aliens that need to be detained and deported. As Markwayne and I have talked previously, I mean, we both agree we need to end sanctuary jurisdictions across the country. You look at what happened in Minneapolis, the reason it exploded is because of sanctuary policies that refuse to allow local law enforcement the ability to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement officials. So we agree on those things. I think as far as the larger population that is here, Markwayne is right about, especially the people that came in under the Biden administration and the need for self-deportation. But I have pushed for the Dignity Act because I do believe that we need to have a overhaul of our immigration system to make it work for the long term, to bring people out of the shadows, the folks who have not committed a crime, who are working, who need to, pay taxes, pay a fine, cannot get citizenship, but can stay here legally to participate in our workforce. We need to have a solution for that larger population.
Congressman, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Always appreciated. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.